Sure.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans for Tuesday, where am I? Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. And I'm here with our co-host, Carol Ray, founder of Notary to Pro. Carol, thanks for being here.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning. Carol, Laura Biewer is, as we were talking about right before we started rolling the camera, she's not going to be on with us today, but it's just going to be you and I, and we have some amazing questions.
That's great. I love question day.
Tons. Just when we were starting to kind of whittle down a few of them, the email from yesterday replenished us. We have plenty of great questions, and we got lots of original ones too, which we really appreciate.
Good.
Yeah. Good. And then, of course,
the only ones I don't like are the ones I can't answer.
Those are frustrating. Luckily, there haven't been too many of those. With Laura, we can pretty much cover everything up. But let's see. Maybe somebody will stump us today.
Okay.
First off, how are you, or what are you excited about this week?
I have got three things I'm very excited about.
Awesome.
One, the more immediate one, is that my brother, my baby brother, who's still in his 60s, he works with UNICEF. He has for years and years. He travels all over the world for UNICEF, teaching people how to advocate children's rights, things like this. He's been doing it for years. And he goes to countries I've never even heard of. And sometimes he's away for a long time, several weeks at a time. Anyway, he's coming to Northern California tomorrow. I get to spend a little time with him and see him. So I'm excited about that. Awesome. I'm excited because somebody that's very close to me asked me to write a foreword for his book by the name of Mr. Bill Soroka. And I wrote it. And you know what? I'm usually a painful writer. It takes me a long time to write things. I knocked that thing off in 15 minutes because what comes from my heart spills out. I don't have to think about it. It just comes out of my brain and into my fingers. This one was out of my heart and into my fingers. So thank you very much for that. I really hope it does you justice.
Oh, thank you. It was beautifully written,
Carol. I have something else I'm excited about. I got a phone call yesterday from a fellow by the name of Mike Lewis, who is the, He's the head managing editor for the National Notary Association for their publications. And he has asked me to submit some articles that they'll kind of hone and refine. But just some things. I'm going to start off with one, some of the mistakes that even the more experienced notaries make that we have to be careful about. And I was very flattered by that and surprised because I've had my times with the NNA over the years. And I said, are you sure? After what I put you guys through. But no, I was very flattered about it, and so that surprised me, and I'm very happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great honor, and I think it just shows mutual respect. You can disagree on a lot of different things and still respect each other in the business. And I think you have so much to offer the notary community. So I'm so glad that that mainstream organization is incorporating your message into theirs. That's amazing, Carol. What an honor.
I think that everybody needs to know something that I learned about a year ago. They do have a new CEO, and he's a person who has, and I'm quoting from somebody, released the shackles. He's opened up people's minds to incorporating other companies, even though we may be either peers or competitors, whatever it is. And I've heard that from a lot of people that I've talked to that have associated with the NNA or are part of the NNA, that this man has a very open mind, and they're much more open to other educational experiences and things. I mean, they allowed me to present I didn't, but somebody did for me, at their last conference. And that showed a lot to me that they were willing to work together, which is a really nice thing.
There's so much power in collaboration. So, and I love that you and I have been able to demonstrate that with Laura, and we see it every day. We encourage other notaries to do it. And now it's just working its way out and really permeating the community. There's so much power in sharing knowledge rather than hoarding knowledge. So I love to see it, and congratulations. Yeah. That's huge.
Thank you.
So let's jump in and take a look at some of our.
No. What are you excited about?
Oh, me.
Oh, you don't get away with it.
Well, number one, Carol, thank you for writing that forward. And you can tell that it was written from the heart. I really appreciate that. I am excited. I did write the book. I leave today, actually, for Austin for a workshop that will be all about the launching of the book. So that should come out in mid-October. I think, hopefully faster. I was trying to get it out by my birthday on September 28th. But I think that's just going to be cutting it a little too close. So we're going to go mid-October. And of course, I'll share it with everybody. It is a book about this business. It's called Sign and Thrive, How to Make Six Figures as a Mobile Notary Loan Signing Agent. So that will be out. And I'll spread the word, of course, about that. But really, more than anything, it took me 3 years to write it. I've been saying I was going to write a book since I can remember, like 4 or 5 years old. I was going to be a writer. So this has been more about accomplishing something on the bucket list and the fortitude it took to get here, because it was not easy. I can see why people don't write books, because you meet every demon that you have inside you and then some when you try to sit down with discipline and write a book. So it's been an amazing experience, and I'll write a book about that experience too.
Well, it's wonderful. And you know what's interesting, it's not only a good story, and you reveal a lot about yourself, which I like, but it's a great reference book. You have stuff in there that is really, really good. Things that people should know. So I think it's going to be very successful. I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited for the trip. I'm also excited. I tag on at the end of this trip. I'm going to Montana for the Ron Symposium in Helena, Montana, for the state of Montana. So that's going to be really exciting too. I'll have lots of information to share. But because of that, I won't be here next week. Just a heads up, Carol, Laura, and the rest of you. So let's jump in and get some of these questions answered, because I know there's been so many good ones on here. Let's see if this is it. You guys looking at the screen that says Tuesday Notary Titans?
Yes.
All right. First question. I put this one in here because I just thought this was cool that Terry took the time to share this. It's not a question. It's just that there is a sale at Sam's Club right now on the Epson Workforce Pro for $100. It's a dual tray, all-in-one, until September 28th. She just wanted to make sure that people who are in the market for a new printer might know about that one. I haven't used any of the Epsons, so I don't necessarily know how it works or anything, but anything under $100 is a heck of a deal sometimes. Next up from Larry. So Larry, this is a timely one too, so I bumped this one to the front. Larry says, I've had a number of packages in the past that were delayed for various reasons, and signatures were obtained after the date shown on the documents. I've always had the borrower sign, and I've dated my notarizations for the date that the signatures were actually obtained. For example, a later date than the date printed on the documents. It has not been a problem until yesterday. The title company is asking or saying, do not change any dates on the document, meaning that the acknowledgments and jurats are all dated the original date, same as the document date. And I changed those to the date that the signatures were actually obtained, and then initialed the change. The signing company now wants to send the documents back for me to be signed and notarized on the date the original documents are dated. He says, before I refuse, I want to get your response. Carol, what do you say on that?
Your refusal is right on.
Spot on.
It is against the law. It's very clear that our notarial certificates must be dated when the signers appear, the date the signers appear before you. There's no other way around it, period. And anybody that would ask you to do that, I'd sure like to know who asked you to do that.
Yeah, it's It's pretty blatant fraud to say that a document was signed on a date that it was not actually signed. There's not a whole lot of ways to get around that one. That's why backdating is just not something that we do. You know, I know there's a lot of gray areas sometimes if documents are being, if they're correcting an error or something, but this situation, we just don't do. Fritznell, I recently completed my signing agent certification in July and signed up for a couple directories. SnapDocs, Notarize This, Notary Depot, but I have not received any assignments. What can I do to increase my chances? Just starting off, I would like to get my feet wet, but there's nothing coming through. My initial goal is to get at least 1 to 2 signings a month for the first 6 to 10 months, then gradually increase as I gain more experience and knowledge. Any thoughts? I love this, Carol, because his expectations are overly realistic, right?
Very reasonable.
1 and 2 signings a month just to get his feet wet. My first recommendation would probably get more signings, because if you're only doing 1 or 2 a month, it's not enough repetition to really get good at this. So I'd probably want to increase that. But Carol, what kind of suggestions do you have for him increasing his number of offers?
Well, as you probably know, I have changed the way my thinking has been for all of these many, many years, in that I have always told my graduates to go after the list that we have, which are very reputable 4- and 5-star companies, and they pay well. However, when you're brand new, I have learned that there is a certain, what's the word? It's not bad to take things from companies like Notary Go that are only looking for cheap notaries. So maybe to get started, maybe target, as well as the higher rated companies. You can always call them and send things to them and repeat the calls and get to know them. But maybe go after some of those that are notoriously low paying companies, just to get some experience under your belt. I really have changed 180 degrees in my thinking, because up until really just a few months ago, I said, no, you can't do that. But I'm finding that my students are better off by taking a few of those signings, limiting it to a certain number, but just to get the experience and the confidence that it takes to get out there and do signings. So you might kind of nose around and look for companies that are not offering a lot of money and try to get signed up with them. If you've been trained and you know what you're doing, they'll gobble you up.
There you go. Great. Now for my suggestion, I would say too, I don't necessarily recognize the names that you've put in here, Fritznell. So to me, your presence is probably not saturated enough. So the first thing is SnapDocs on its own. I'm going to have to mute some people. I apologize, guys. There we go. First of all, SnapDocs is not the end-all be-all. I think it's necessary if you're going to be working with signing companies. It's probably one of those things that you're going to need to do, but don't rely on it for your business. You know, it's just one avenue or one source of signings for you. The other things, when you say directories, you probably just want to stick to those 3 main ones that we often talk about: Notary, Rotary, 123 Notary, and Notary Cafe as directories. And then on top of this, Fritznell, there might even be thousands of signing companies across the country that you can sign up with. I know this is going to come up down the road, but there is an amazing resource and community already together that puts out a very updated list. And that's through notaryreviews.org. That's Carrie Rivera's site and community. Now, what I say on that, though, is, guys, before you apply to even Notary Reviews, or before you put yourself out there, there's this extra level of professionalism that you want to make sure that you're representing in the industry. That means that you've got your profiles dialed in. Your signingagent.com profile has a picture. It shows some personality. It shows some sort of commitment to this business. You're talking about more than just your E&O insurance coverage. You know, you're painting a picture of why you're in this business. That's going to be the same thing. That'll translate to those other 3 directories as well. Make sure you have photos. Make sure it's professional. Show some passion in there, and it shows the problem solving or the solution that you are presenting to the community so people will want to book your business. Have a website. Do this stuff. Put these places in order, or these things in place before you apply to organizations like Carrie's site. Carrie's very protective of her community because she wants professionals in there. So up your game. All of that needs to be done anyway. She's just helping you hold yourself to a higher standard as well. Then you get dialed in there and you have all these hundreds of companies that you could apply to. And they're going to be looking at the same data. They're going to look at your profiles. They're going to look at your documents to decide if you're somebody they want to do business with or do signing or send signings to. So all of that component, when you do that, if all you're going to do is work with as an independent contractor for signing companies, that's going to increase the chances, at least, of you getting a signing. Anything else on that one, Carol? We get that one a lot, and I know that applies to a lot of them here.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Deb.
Yeah, I just want to say on with the Snap Docs, I've noticed with my experience too, because I've done a lot of it through the different ones that go through them. You do, even though it's low ball initially or with some of them, if you get enough from a particular company and stuff, they will up the fees that they offer you, and they'll call you direct, as well as offer possibly getting get Fidelity certified and stuff. So
yes, definitely.
Yeah, so you don't want to totally knock out Snap Docs.
Absolutely not. Right. And again, it comes down to the relationships too. You know, both Carol and I talk about this. When as signings come in, you get lots of good information about the company who's hiring you. You get the scheduler's name and phone number sometimes. Even if you miss out on that one signing, there's opportunities to continue to build relationships. And that all of this boils down to relationships, guys. When the volume goes down, the signing companies are going to work with the companies or the signing agents that they have relationships with. So take the time to do that. Don't let the call volume be a distraction to building relationships. It's still going to boil down to that. When the call volume slows down, they're still going to work with the people that they have taken the time to build relationships with them.
One of the things that I became successful doing was just being very friendly. I teach my students to always put a smile on their face because you can hear it in their voice. And when I was doing signings before it was really, you know, there was a lot of signers out there. Sometimes, I've said this before, I covered for companies, friends of mine who owned signing services, and they would have me cover for a few hours or a day while they either had to go do something or dentist appointment or something. And I would have to call notaries to schedule appointments. And because back then there weren't as many of us, some of them were just slimy. I mean, they were just rude, and you just didn't want to even talk to them. And I found that I would gravitate to those people that I knew when I called them, they were going to be up and upbeat and friendly and interactive with me. And I've heard that from many people when they hired me, because they chose me because they just liked to call me and they didn't have to put up with a bunch of bull. So it's very important, just your attitude when you answer the phone or when you call the company. Everybody wants to talk with somebody who's happy and upbeat. They don't want to talk to somebody who's rude or downtrodden.
That's so true. And you know, part of the reason I started the Sign and Thrive course was because as I was growing my signing company, I would reach out automatically on signingagent.com. I would automatically think, oh, well, that person's got 20 years experience. Well, guys, 20 years experience in this does not translate to good signing agent, because number one, their personality and their attitudes might be terrible. They might just have an attitude about like it's always been this way. You need me, I don't need you kind of. That's what I was running into. You know, they wouldn't get out of bed for less than 150, wouldn't drive more than 5 miles. First question out of their mouth is, how much are you going to pay me? You know, they just a little telling me to get my shit together. You know, that kind of attitude and interaction did not sit well with me, and it doesn't sit well with many people. So when you're taking these calls and you're building your business, the insecurity you feel about being a new signing agent is really only yours. You're the only one that really knows your experience level. So there's not somebody sitting over here judging you already that you don't have enough experience, so you better prove yourself. That's not what we're thinking when we call. Sometimes we don't even know how much experience you have. So your personality and the way you come across on the phone, it is the deciding factor in whether or not we work with you at least once, and for definitely beyond that. So it makes a huge difference. All right, Samantha says, I've read where a notary can't charge more than $2 to $4 for notary fees. Is this a general rule? So this would be a great question for Laura, but I'll jump in here too. Samantha, the notary fees are set by your state legislature usually, or your Secretary of State for general notary work. So that might range anywhere from $1 all the way up to $15 in some states. And then there's usually a stipulation about what you can charge for travel, convenience, mileage. Different states have different fees to work around it. So what you want to do is just jump into your notary statutes and find out what your state requirements and limitations are on that one. Number 2 is Notary Coach for part-time notaries. Is there a platform for part-time notaries? I would say that whether you choose Notary Coach, Notary to Pro, or get your coaching from Laura, any of this can be done either full-time or part-time, just depending on your needs. So Carol, would you say that you can customize or scale this system?
Everybody chooses what kind of hours they want, how much work they want to put in, how much money they want to make. So it's just that person's decision as to how they want to do it. And wherever they get their training's better than none, for sure. That'll propel you into a world that you know what you're doing.
And the cool thing about
can I answer number 3?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to touch on the part-time component again, guys. Yeah. There is, when you're working as an independent contractor for these signing companies, you're probably going to see a majority of refinances. And refinances get done, I call them the power hours, between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., Monday through Friday. So if you have a 9 to 5 kind of job, you can still get 1 or 2 signings in at night, Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays are a pretty busy day as well for the part-time side. I'm sorry, take number 3 away, Carol. Are notary journals mandatory?
In some states, they are not. For me, I would require it in every state. People don't understand. Yeah, they're kind of a pain in the neck. But let me just tell you, if you get called into court for something, those are your memory, for one thing. That is your proof. That's what's going to save you from being involved in a lawsuit. If you don't keep a journal, I can almost guarantee you that if you notarized something and you get called to court 6 months later, you're not going to have a clue. You're not going to remember what you notarized, who it was for, what you did, any special notes that you might have. It's very, very important that everybody keeps a journal, because there is going to be some time when either somebody's going to ask you for a copy of your journal because there's been some fraud that has occurred, or you're going to be called into court. So I think everybody needs to know, even if you're not in a state that requires journals, it's really mandatory that you have one. It really is.
And I totally agree with that, of course. We really drive that home. And part of being in integrity too, guys, is when you agree to be a certified loan signing agent with the NNA, part of their best practices and code of conduct says that you will use a notary journal, even if it's not required in your state. Number 4 is, this is a great question. And I know Samantha's already certified now. This is kind of an older question. She says, the certification process sounds confusing. It looks like most groups or organizations offer a certification. What's the best advice on this process? Carol, you've been around for a while. What's your best advice on this?
That's a really hard one for me, because I've been at this for 10 years, and it's taken me that long for our particular certification to really be accepted by almost everyone, everywhere in the country. But up until the last really 3 years, the only requirement by most companies was the NNA. They weren't open. Companies were not open to anything else. And now I'm very proud to say that Notary to Pro is accepted all over the country now. And I've even had students come to me and say it's required, that there's companies asking for that. So I've worked hard for that. My students have worked hard for it, and I'm proud of that.
Yep, love it. And the thing is too, and Carol, you tell me if you've experienced something different. When we talk about the NNA certification, it's not what most people think that a certification test should be. It really is just a glance over test or a review of their code of conduct that they participated in writing a few years ago. So you're not going to come out of that with all of this knowledge about how to do this work on a day-to-day basis. That's why we highly recommend that you get additional training through Notary to Pro, through Sign and Thrive, whatever you choose to do. You're going to need that, the nitty-gritty stuff on how to do it. The NNA test for $65 gives you access to the test, and it gives you that criminal background check, and it gives you the listing on signingagent.com. So it's what I call table stakes. If you want to work in this business and get signing companies and work with signing companies, it's just one of those things that makes sense to get. Signingagent.com is legit. Escrow officers use it. Signing companies use it to find signing agents. And then it has all of your data and your information all in one place, so we can see how much E&O insurance you have. We can see that you pass the criminal background check. So it's a value, and for $65 a year, it's almost on that no-brainer level. Still, don't stop there. And this is one of the challenges I have with certifications in general, is that by human nature, once we get a certification, there's this little part of our brain that gives us a little check marks. Okay, I get to stop learning and I get to move on. And that's a dangerous place to be. We have to forever be the student. There's always something more to learn. So you want to continue your learning and your growth in this business. There are escrow officers that have worked in this business for 30 plus years, and they still get stumped on a daily basis with weird situations. You're going to run into that too. So you want every day to be a learning opportunity for you. So regardless of your certification that you get, keep learning. Keep participating in calls like this, which all of you guys are obviously, but there's so much more to learn. And it's your business too, so it never stops. You're going to learn the notary stuff, you're going to learn the loan signing stuff, and then you got to manage a business on top of that. So it is a constant learning process.
Well, I am absolutely encouraging my graduates to continue with you and with Laura. You add a whole different dimension than what I do. I always think of myself as I'm just the foundation. That's where I sit. I'm not going to do anything any different. I'm old, I'm stuck in my place, and that's what I do. But when I see how much you and Laura both can add to people who are really serious about this business, especially full-timers, where they're making this a full-time career, then I just can't say enough about it. I just love our collaboration, and I love what each one of us has to add to this industry.
It is. I think we make an awesome team because we really help us out. And I hear it from the audience all the time too, is, you know, a lot of our students are both Notary to Pro, they're both Sign and Thrive, and there's other courses out there too. So they all have really jumped on and getting a really good perspective of how to run this business. So.
I should. Now I'm going to bring it up.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Yeah, please do. What's up?
Yeah, I had a situation recently that you're aware of and a lot of people are aware of, where there is someone new out there training notaries. And I found out that he was using my name, Notary to Pro. They. So I want people to be very careful. And this is something you and I have talked about, and we haven't really planned on bringing it out, but I want people to understand there are a lot of scammers out there too. I discovered them a few years ago when they were going by putting ads in Indeed, Monster, different papers, and they called themselves real notary pros. And they were going to people, sending emails and saying, I have over 100 companies in your area that need you to do notary signings, and getting them people that never even thought about being notaries, and scamming them for thousands of dollars. I talked to so many people who lost money. Be very careful when you see things like that. You see ads on Facebook and different places. Check them out, please, because they really target a certain audience, especially seniors, especially single women, I found. And they even sell them their commission. They tell them, well, for $300, you send us the $300 along with the training, we'll go get your commission for you so you don't have to bother with it. And I don't have to tell you what happens. No commission, no training, no nothing.
Yeah,
so be careful.
And some of it's thousands of dollars too. You know, they really hook you in, and they're taking advantage of your frustration, because when you first get out, especially if you haven't signed up for any courses or community, and you're just watching YouTube videos, and you're really trying to kind of piece your business together, and it's not taking off like as fast as you wanted it to, suddenly you get an email from this company that says, we've got hundreds of signings in your area. We just need somebody who's on our list. And then to get on our list, you have to pay this fee and then get this training. And then once you're in there, then you're going to make all this money. So they're tapping into that, and they're really taking advantage of that, which really pisses me off. And I know it pisses Carol off too. But if you ever, guys, I offer free mentor calls at any time. So if you ever have a question, before you drop any major money, set up a call with me. All you have to do is go to notarycoach.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a calendar so you can book a call with me. Set up a call and let's talk about it. And let's talk about your frustration too. You know, if you're not getting the results that you want in your business, let's look at what you have been doing. Let's look at what's not working, and then see if we can piece some things together to make something work. I'm happy to do that. I love talking business. My schedule is booked up until October right now, but feel free to, if you want to get together in the first 2 weeks of October, let's book a call. Those are totally free.
And use your gut. When you're out there looking around and you're trying to find out which training you want, you know, listen to these YouTube videos, listen to them. You're going to get a sense of how they train and the energy of people. And you want to find something that's suitable for you. Like, I'm kind of slow. I talk slow. And some people are like, oh no, I can't deal with that. Julie Brickley, who's a student of mine from a long time ago, she's told me over the years that she got a lot out of the training, but she says, you're so slow. Her brain is one that, you know. So, but seriously, when you listen to people, you get a sense of who they are. You need to find somebody that you're comfortable with, that you know that you're going to be able to learn from. That's just a hint, and I see it works all the time. So
yeah, that's so important, because your mentor or your coach or your trainer is somebody that you're going to be working with for a while. You might as well enjoy the company of that person too. So find somebody that clicks with you and has the same values. That's huge. Mm-hmm. All right, Jackie says, I had a seller's package and we met at a car dealership. There was a gentleman, worker there who travels the country moving inventory. He asked if I would notarize an auction paper for him after I finished the appointment. I consented, but was unable to detect any notarial wording in the document. He became agitated by my searching the document for the notarial wording. I returned his money and declined the notarization. Are you familiar with this type of document? Should I have proceeded? Thank you for your time. So on this one, I don't know what that particular document is necessarily, but sometimes I love what you did, Jackie. I think you have to find your notarial wording. You're going to find out where your responsibility lies. And then also know that not every document that needs or requires a notarization will have the notary certificate attached to it. Sometimes you may have to attach your own certificate. So you ask him if he wants to do an acknowledgement or a jurat or what he's looking for. In most states, we cannot pick that. The signer has to choose. So we can describe the difference between the two and then let the signer choose.
And if they don't know, you may have to go back to the originator of the document.
and then just ask them what they'd like to see on it. What I found is on vehicle documents, there's because of the amount of wording or the spacing or however the states do it, sometimes it's one single line that just says "sworn before me" on there, so it can be hard to catch. But you have every right to locate that on the document. All right, Anna says, what is the etiquette when I'm at a signing I received from a signing service and the signer asked me for my business card? So for clarity's sake, when I'm at the signing I received from a signing service and a loan officer, or escrow officer, or title officer asked me for my business card so they can use me in the future, I tell them they must go through the signing service who hired me. Carol, what's your thoughts on this?
That's a tough one, but it's a matter of ethics. For me, I've always said, exactly what she did. It's easy. It would be an easy thing for you, and a thing that makes you excited to think that you can go from the signing service, which obviously doesn't pay quite as much because they get their portion directly. But I feel that ethically, we were provided that work from that signing service, and I think that we owe them that kind of loyalty.
I agree.
That's just the way I feel about it.
I think there's an integrity factor here. The thing is, the signing company is going to give you a lot more business than the title company is. And it's like biting the hand that feeds you. The signing company has the volume. If they even perceive that you're trying to poach one of their clients, they're going to cut you off right away. So it's just not going to pay off. You're not going to feel good about it no matter what happens. So I recommend, I love what Anna's done here. She just says, you know what, I'm affiliated with this signing company. It would be better to do that. Now, I will tell you that some escrow officers behind the scenes might be experiencing some frustration with their current signing company. And they might like you a lot. And they might say, look, I cannot use that signing company anymore unless I'm guaranteed you. So you can actually tell the signing company, or they can tell the signing company, anytime I have a signing, I want to use Anna. That's it. If you don't have Anna available, I'm going somewhere else. Guess what? You're going to get all their signings. That's a great way to stay in integrity and do that. And the reality is sometimes relationships blossom out. Sometimes you outgrow the signing service. And those are professional and mature conversations that have to have, but I'd like to do it with full transparency. So there's nothing shady going on. Doris says, I know you can't certify a copy of vital records like a birth certificate, but you can notarize a signature using an attached certificate on his statement that he claims his birth certificate is a true copy. If so, does the notary make the copy or does he bring the copy with him, an actual birth certificate? I'll tell you what, Doris, we're going to hold that one off for Laura. Is that okay with you, Carol?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. In general, how do LSAs get paid, or how long does it take for an LSA to be paid in their fees? What's your suggestion here, Carol?
Well, it's going to take what it takes. And with some companies, you'll get it within 15, 20 days. And there's other companies that are going to take 60 days to pay you. You have to determine whether you're going to continue to work for that company. If you're not getting paid in a timely manner, you're not happy with them, don't work with them. You're not going to change it.
Yeah, so when you're working with signing companies, you're really kind of subject to their payment policy. They're usually pretty clear about that up front. We pay 60 days out or 30 days out. Some of the bigger companies pay weekly or biweekly now, so you'll know what it is. The way I approached it was I just filled my pipeline. So rather than stressing out and worrying about, when the $80 check or $100 check was coming, I just worked my tail off until I got enough pipeline. And every day, like starting this business made walking to the mailbox so much fun. I used to dread it. Now I go out there and every day there's a check or 2 or 10 in there from signings that have been processed. So the money just keeps coming in, and I have a bookkeeping system that just makes sure that nobody slips too far behind on that. If you're working escrow direct, though, that changes a little bit. On escrow direct, you're usually paid a lot faster because a lot of times your notary fee is actually going to be a line item on the settlement statement That means that as soon as that loan or transaction closes, the escrow officer or closing agent is cutting you a check for your services and dropping it in the mail. So you might get paid, 3 to 5 days after your signing when you're going escrow direct. It's not always that way though, because for example, I have escrow direct clients that pay me out of a slush fund, their general operating fund. So the invoices have to go to corporate, they have to process them and then send out a check. So I'm still 30 to 45 days out from getting paid. It just depends on the arrangement that you have. Whew. Got some long ones this time, Carol. Denise says, thus far, I have received direct business from 2 title companies that I reached out to. Company number 1, there was an issue with receiving payment. For whatever reason, after the first payment, subsequent checks were no longer arriving. I called on 2 separate occasions to request stop payment and to reissue checks. The company agreed both times, but the checks never arrived. Finally, I visited the office, apologized for arriving unannounced, and advised the office that payment has not been received and stated that if it was okay, I didn't mind waiting to receive payment in hand while at the office. The office agreed and I received payment, but I haven't heard from them since. What do you think of how she handled that, Carol?
Nicer than I would have.
I like her approach because it gave the company the benefit of the doubt, and I like to work with benefit of the doubt.
No,
Who
that's
knows
true.
what's going on?
I think that she did. I think she did well, but I wouldn't worry about whether I heard from them since. They wouldn't hear from me.
Right. If you have to fight that hard for your money, that's usually a sign that either people aren't present in the data entry, or they do not value you enough to pay you, or there's some kind of cluster going on in the background that we don't know about. I have learned that the hard way, guys. I had a really high-end title company that all of a sudden just stopped paying. And that office went out of business within 6 months. So I knew something. That can be an indicator that there's something else going on back there.
Well, I have a very sad story regarding that, because you don't think of the title companies going under. But one of our very, very great clients, and she has a great company. I'm not going to say her name, but she had a wonderful 5-star rated company for years. She started struggling getting payments out late. People were writing to me because a lot of my students were working with her. And come to find, she ended up really in trouble. And when I talked to her about it, I found out that she had a title company that owed her $45,000, and they went under. They didn't pay, and then they went under and left her holding the bag. And even a signing service, that's a lot of money. And it literally destroyed her business, which was so sad. She'd been in business for years. So it does happen. And the first sign that they're not paying you, you got to be careful. I don't work for companies. I didn't work for companies if I found that I had to fight for my money, because you never know what's next.
It's really, when you're in full hustle mode, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel in that regard. But there will come a time when you start recognizing the people who value you. And those are the relationships that you just stick with. In the beginning, we're hustling, we're kind of doing whatever we need to do. And then all of a sudden you're going to connect with somebody who says, you are amazing. I want to work with you every time. And then it's like your buddies, your friends, your best BFFs. That's the one that's going to stick. And then some of the other ones fall away, and then you keep working and you find another one. The most I've ever made in this business, just as a single loan signing agent, was because when I had only 2 escrow officer clients and 2 signing company clients that I loved working with, and they loved working with me. And that was the best I did, only with 4 clients. And I made more than I had ever made. I experienced, deep relationships. I had a flexible schedule. I could travel every week or the first week of every month. That was amazing. So it's not always a numbers game. In the beginning, it kind of is, but then you're going to find your groove, and it might only be 4 to 6 clients where you're doing the best and working with people who really appreciate you. So part 2 of Denise's question, she goes, she was provided 2 back-to-back signings in a title office. The office manager, however, was taken aback by my asking the borrower for their ID. I was advised that it was the practice of the office staff to get the borrower's ID and make a copy upon the borrower's arrival to the office. This gets added to their file with the notary has in her possession of the signing table. Despite being advised of this, at the second signing, out of habit and a notary requirement, I asked for the borrower's ID. The borrower vocally balked at this, as he had just given his ID to the office manager. The office manager advised me that my action was reported to the owner. This signals to me that I probably won't be invited back again. I realize that I'm justified in requesting the borrower's ID as far as notary duties going. Wondering if there's a better way to handle this situation. Carol, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, she has to have the original ID. There's no way around it. So if they make copies, whatever, it's just not good enough. I would say a conversation is necessary with the escrow manager, perhaps, to make them understand the importance of our fulfilling our obligations. Number one, by getting the original ID for the signers that we are notarizing. I think just a friendly conversation to sit down and discuss the way they do it and how it impacts us and doing our job.
I love that. I think when you approach things from an integrity standpoint, it really diffuses the defense coming at you. Because I've had to have this conversation with clients too, where they're just stuck on one way of doing things. But then when I present that, this is technically against the state statutes, when they do it, then it's like, oh, well, we didn't know that. So maybe there's some common ground. So you can say, instead of you guys taking the ID and making a copy, how about I take the ID, I can do my thing with it, and I'll make a copy for you guys.
Exactly.
So they're a copy machine. So there's probably some wiggle room with a conversation. With this particular company, maybe there's no hope, maybe it's done. But here's what I've learned. Any company that forces you to step out of integrity with the law or your inner integrity is not worth working for. There's plenty of good companies out there.
Yep.
Kathy says, I live in an attorney state. What type of signings could I do if all purchase mortgages have to be done by attorneys?
We've talked about this before. I have students all over and in every attorney state. People are, and I say the same thing over and over again, but so excuse me for repeating myself, but people in this country are very transient. They're always on the move. They're either transferred because of work, they're moving their families, they leave homes behind and lease them and do all kinds of things. I have found from all of the students that I have across the country in the attorney states that number one, either they can get work from attorneys by helping them to execute, these sales or refinances, or they can handle properties that are outside of the state as long as the people are near them. In other words, it doesn't matter where the title company is, the lenders are, whatever, I can't think now, but it's only where the people are. That's all they're concerned about. So if they have neighbors that are from Oklahoma and the lender is in New York and the title company is in Mississippi, doesn't matter. It's those people that are there. They're the ones that'll be getting the work, and they can handle everything outside, all properties outside of the state.
Yeah, and every state has their own rules about this, guys, but most of the wording is going to say something along the lines is that an attorney must be present or involved in the closing of a real estate transaction. So that level of involvement is up for interpretation in the different states. So some attorneys act just like escrow officers in the Western states, right? So escrow officers hire us as independent contractors to represent them to go out and gather signatures. Attorneys do that too. Plus, there's the whole refinance market. We're in a huge refinance boom right now. So if all purchase mortgages have to be done by attorneys, there's still a ton of refinance mortgages as well. So there is opportunity in all 50 states. I know, I think it's South Carolina that really makes it harder than most states. But for the most part, you can make a really good living. If you want to see who else is doing this, just go to signingagent.com or one of the notary directories and type in your zip code. From Kez.
It's funny. I think I've said this before, but it's funny to be like us in either California or Arizona and doing a signing, and we get a notification that we're going to get a phone call from an attorney because they're involved in the signing. And you get a call, and they talk, they ask a few questions. They're on the phone maybe 7 or 8 minutes, and there's the bill right there on the HUD, $475.
Yep. Yep. And then they pay you out a little bit just for going out there.
Yeah.
So Kes says, I'm new to this, and I wanted to know the best way to go about naming your business if you're a notary and loan signing agent. Do you use your name in the title, or do you use a generic name that you come up with?
I think being creative and coming up with a very clever business name that really tells people what you do, and using a website to tell them who you are. And I get this question all the time, as far as setting up a business like an LLC or whatever, the first thing you need to do is to talk to an expert, somebody who knows about taxes and can give you some sound advice that will be, kind of along the lines of what your business, how your business is run, and economically what you need to do. Not everybody needs to start like an LLC or something. But I want you to know that for years and years, Bill and I, when I did the work and then Bill and I did the work, I always used my name as far as getting paid. So everybody knew me by name. We had a business name that we used just because it was our domain name on our website, which was iSignDocs. And so people knew us by iSignDocs, but we got paid by our name, and that's what we did.
Yeah. What I found, and I've shared this story as well, is that your name definitely does matter, especially if you're going to choose your domain name and you got your search engine optimization and all of that. But when it comes down to it, they're doing business with you. It's you and your personality and your commitment to doing this job correctly. Like if you want to scale your business, they're still working with you and then the people that you trust. If you're having a signing company or if you're referring out, it's still Bill the Notary. I have changed my name, I don't know, 7, 8 times, and I'll have these flashy business cards made and just, get a new domain, and nobody cares. All they do is they have my phone number, my email address, and that's who they connect with. If I change my name in the background, which I have, my clients that I've had from the very beginning, they don't know all those different names. All they know, I have the check made out to William Soroka Notary Public. That's it. That's who their check's out to, and that's their accounting office. So they just know me as Bill the Notary.
Joanne Beverly said something here. I just saw it flash across my screen, and she's so right. I've been trying to encourage everyone to go to irs.gov and get, I can't find it, but it's getting an EIN number. This is a major thing. An EIN number replaces your social security number. And anytime that you're sending things out to signing services and title companies, what you're adding is information which is personal, including your social security number. When you get an EIN number, which is free, you can get it in a day or two. You always use your EIN number instead of your social security number. So you don't have to put that out there to anyone ever. And it really secures your social security number. Very easy to do.
Yep, definitely. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to take some live calls here. We got some great questions in the chat window already. Let's talk about whether or not it's absolutely necessary to have a website when you're first starting out. For me, I think it's important to have a digital presence one way or the other. But it's also important to understand the expectations around it. Is a website going to drive loan signing traffic for you? Probably not, at least in the very beginning. But it is going to be how escrow officers and signing companies might learn more about you and make decisions about whether they want to do business with you. So if they find you on a list somewhere and they're interacting with you and they do some research to see if you're legitimate, if you're real, or what your personality's like, they're going to Google your name. And you want to do everything you can to control the context of what they see. And your website, your blogs, your social media, all of that plays into that. So even if you did just a cheap or free Google site. Through Google My Business, they have so many free services. You can set up a free site, and it's just for personal branding, and all it did was tell a little bit about you and how to get a hold of you. You will have done well. And you can organically grow that thing and change it as you go. But yes, I think it is something that you're going to want to put on your list. Not necessarily pay for. It may not make sense to pay for it yet as a loan signing agent, but get a free one up there for sure. And there's all kinds of other free sites too.
The one thing I do want to add to that, because what we have done, and it's not myself, it's my daughter, but as a service to our graduates, she builds websites for anyone who chooses to have it built. And she does beautiful, beautiful job, and she doesn't charge very much, but it just, it shows the professionalism of you. And I'm going to contradict something that you said, because you've got to be very careful when you're getting a free website, because it's free and it looks, oftentimes when you see the ads and all the things that go with it, it says this is a free website, which they do, and they use it for advertising. It kind of gives people a bad taste. So if you can do it yourself, you can, it's not very expensive to do, or find somebody that will do it very, very a nominal fee. It's worth it, but it sort of instills your professionalism that, that you're in it for the good and forever. So
yeah, it's definitely something that you're going to want to upgrade for sure. But I don't think it's one of those expenses in the very beginning that you should stress about when there's free options out there. But definitely put it on your list.
But be careful about where you go. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, I'm not a fan of Wix or any of those that don't let you use your domain. Using your domain is absolutely imperative too. We have a whole course on SEO and how to do that stuff too. But just know that having a digital presence is a key factor in your success. And especially if you decide to go general notary work. Everything changes with what we just talked about if you decide to go general notary work. General notary work, you are going to get the majority of your business based on your website. So if you have any hopes and aspirations of doing that, then you're going to need to invest in a website. And I recommend you do that right away. You can start out free and small, but every day you need to be working on your search engine optimization and get that to a point where it looks really sharp and nice, because that's how people find you. People are Googling notary near me on Google, and you want your site to pop up on that. Great. What other questions do we have live on the group? We've got just a couple minutes, probably time for one more question. Anybody live on the call that would like to unmute and ask?
Hey, Bill, it's Tara.
Hey, Tara. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for unmuting and asking a question.
So I did ask this in the chat box, but I just wanted to ask out loud. You guys are so awesome with providing your answers every week, but it seems as though you are asked an answer about the same 5 questions every week that are just kind of worded differently. And I wanted to know if you guys would consider doing like a top 10 FAQ that you email out to everyone, and especially the new people, that might just answer those questions for them.
That's a really good suggestion. And it's funny, I was just thinking about that this morning, and I don't know if I'll do the email idea, because I'm not sure who will actually read it. But what I was thinking that we might do, and Carol, we should talk about this, is just on the replay page, make it a resource page as well. So we ask, the resources for the printer questions, the link to signing companies, so we can say go to the resource page and look at those for those questions. And then we can get into some of the deeper questions here on the call. I agree, totally. Still, if you have questions, guys, I don't want to dissuade you from submitting your questions. I know we're all coming into this at different levels. So keep those questions coming. And then Carol and Laura and I will come up with a solution for the most common questions for sure. I'm also going to be starting a live video on Fridays called Friday FAQ, where I'm going to do a frequently asked question every week and answer that and get that out on YouTube. So hopefully people can find that just Googling this kind of stuff as well. All right, guys, it takes us right up to 9 o'clock. Thank you so much. You know what? We have time for one more question, though. Amy asks, I'm new and a little confused as when to administer the oath. Carol, I'm going to give you that one. Do you mind closing us out with the oath?
Yeah, first of all, it's extremely important. It's a good question. I suggest to my students that when they start the signing, after they've determined where they're going to sit and kind of explain to the people what they're going to be doing in the next 45 minutes or so, that then they issue the oath. I have them raise their right hand because it shows the seriousness of what they're doing. The oath is very important. And then just remind them, let them know that you will remind them when they come to something that requires being under oath, that they are still under oath. And it's very important. Also, please mark your journal somewhere. Every time that you issue an oath, you know, have some way of doing it. If you want to put a big O around something, or just put the word oath, because if you're ever called into court, it's very important that you show consistency. If you say, oh yes, I always issue the oath, you want to be able to prove that with a consistency in your journal. So, yeah.
And her follow-up question is, do you do it on every signing?
If I have affidavits in there, I mean, if there's nothing in there that they require to be under oath, no, but generally you have affidavits. So almost every signing, you're going to be issuing the oath or affirmation.
Yeah, I think you could safely say it on every purchase or every refinance, there's definitely going to be the oath information in there. On some seller packages, I've noticed where there's only maybe 1 or 2 notarized documents in the first place, you may not have them, but definitely on the purchases and refinances.
And if anybody is looking for an oath, I have one that has worked for me for 20 years. It was given to me by an attorney. I love it. It's short, sweet, says what it needs to, and it's legal. So if they like it, send an email to me, notarytopro@gmail.com, and I'll shoot a copy of it back to you. And it's small, so you can laminate it and put it in your journal.
Beautiful. All right, guys, thank you so much for growing yourself on a Tuesday morning. Carol, thank you for being here. Always a pleasure hanging out with you guys, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. I'm not here next week.
Well, I'm going to miss you. You got to teach us how to run this thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
Okay.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.